Are you preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance exams? BYJU'S Exam Prep, CAT and MBA, your one-stop solution for all MBA exams related questions. Watch unique strategies to ace CAT, XAT, SNAP, IIFT, TISNET, CMAT and other important MBA entrance exams. Tips and tricks to boost score, subject-wise and chapter-wise sessions, previous year's questions, exam-related update and notifications, live exam analysis and actual questions discussion. So why wait? Subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep, CAT and MBA YouTube channel and press the bell icon to stay updated.
Good evening everyone. Welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep. So MAHCET is around the corner. You have 3 months left for the examination, and it is the time that you maximize your performance in the examination. Okay, like how do you maximize score in the quant section? That is what we are going to discuss today. Okay, so quant section consists of 50 questions in the examination. However, last year when there was a different pattern, the number of questions varied across slots. But if it's a standard paper, you have 50 questions in quant. Okay, and what are the topics that one must cover, and what are the topics like while practicing you should cover everything, but when appearing for the examination there are certain topics that you can skip in the paper and certain topics which you must definitely attempt in the paper. Okay, so those are the things that we are going to discuss today, that which topics are must do for the paper and which are the topics the ones who are not so good at quant. Right, some of you must be very good at quant, they might do 50 out of 50, but for the ones who are weak in quant, so what are the things that they can skip and what are the things they must do, so that everyone tries to get the maximum score in the section. Okay, because each person has different capability. Some might be good with quant, but some might be good with some other section, right? So if a person is, let us say, good in verbal ability and not good in quant, can cover up the score in the VA section rather than in quant. Similarly, the other way around, let's say a person who is not good in verbal ability and reasoning, may be very good in quant, can maximize the score here. Okay, if you are preparing for CAT and other MBA entrance examinations for the coming year, you can enroll with our classroom programs. Now, the first thing, in order to crack any examination, right, let alone be section, the first thing that you should know is about the pattern of the examination. Okay, so if you know the pattern, that definitely helps you do better in the examination. Okay, so you must know what are the topics that are being asked. Are you studying the right thing for the examination? Okay, so let us say you are going to appear in the examination and you think, yeah, I prepared for CAT, the same syllabus is there, must be there, and I will if I prepared for CAT, I will be able to do good in MAHCET also. That is not true. Okay, first thing is you should know the pattern. For example, you will not be asked geometry in MAHCET. You will not be asked algebra here. Okay, the core algebra. There will be hardly few questions from permutation combination. Okay, so you should know the pattern. What are the type of questions being asked here? Now, if you talk about the DI section, there will not be logic based DI, and there will be just calculation based DI. Similarly, there will be questions like number series approximation, which are not asked in CAT. Okay, so you should know that the pattern. If it's a standard examination, hope that pattern returns. The number of questions is 50. And if we talk about the data interpretation part, it consists of around 15 to 20 questions. That is around 3 to 4 sets. Okay, so 3 to 4 DI sets. Now, if you have to increase your score, right? So you should know that this becomes an important part. Okay, you cannot leave DI altogether. You will have to attempt some DI, maybe 1 or 2 set, because if you leave this portion of the section, it becomes quite challenging to score well in the section. Then there are about 10 word problems, right? Word problems are like, let's say, a problem on simple interest, compound interest, profit, loss, time, speed, distance. So vary based on different topics. Now, we should know that these word problems are majorly from arithmetic. Okay, so you will not have problems coming from algebra. You will not be asked that questions based on functions, right? You will not be asked trigonometry. So you should know that what are the topics that are covered in this. So it is mostly arithmetic, and maybe one question from mensuration, and one question from modern math, that is PNC and probability. So mostly it is arithmetic, right? So maybe one or two questions from these topics, but mostly it is arithmetic. So you need to be well prepared with arithmetic. Now you should not be preparing algebra. Okay, that would help you in some other examination, but not in Maharashtra CT. Let us say if you are preparing for CAT, you must have prepared algebra also. You must have prepared geometry also, right? But here that won't help you. Okay. Now there are certain other topics which are asked apart from these, which are number series, okay, approximation, quadratic equation, quantity comparison. Okay, now number series, okay, you must have seen in other examinations also, so that is commonly known. Approximation is basically simplification. Okay, so you are given certain numbers, you have to apply BODMAS rule, right? You are given addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. Okay, you have to uh, uh, solve using those rules. Okay, then next is quadratic equation. Quadratic equation is basically not that typically you have to solve some quadratic equation. There are two equations given, right? One equation in x square something, second equation will be y square something. So you will get values of x and y, so you have to compare x and y. So that is one variety of question that is often asked in banking examinations. So you must also note that these are all questions asked in banking exams. So if you get resources for that, let's say you get mock papers of bank examinations, sample questions from there, you can practice using those also. So you should know that these are the topics which are different, not asked in any other examination, like especially this quadratic equation and quantity comparison. So quantity comparison is a kind of question in which there are two statements given, 1 and 2, and one will say, let us say something, some word problem you have to solve. Let us say it is on simple interest, right? So it is something like you find the simple interest, and second problem would be like cost price of something. Okay, so let us say this is x, this is y, so you have to compare x and y, that which is higher, which is lower, if they are equal, etc. So these are the different varieties of questions that are asked. Okay, so first thing is you should know that what are kind of questions asked. If you do not know this thing, you prepare something else, that will not be a fruitful thing, right? Let's say you prepare geometry, right? That is not asked. Triangles, circles, and all those things not asked here. Okay. Now let us look topic by topic, that what are the things asked in data interpretation, what are the word problems asked in quantitative aptitude. Now, data interpretation, as I said, 3 to 4 sets, around 15 to 20 questions. It's a good portion of the section. Okay, 30 to 40% of the section is data interpretation, and the type of questions will include data tables, data given in the form of tables, missing. It could be completely filled, or it could be partial also. Partial means some missing values given there, so that is also a possibility. Then you have bar graph. Okay, so a bar graph, you know that what is a bar graph and how to read it. Then line graph, another variety is line graph. Then pie chart. Okay, and then you have caselets. Caselets are your basically passage based DI. Okay, and that could include some arithmetic concepts. That could also include arithmetic concepts, like let us say uh, based on time, speed, distance. It could be ratio, proportion, right? So caselet is the another variety of data interpretation that you get in the examination. Okay, now one thing that you should know about these questions is These are calculation based. Like, unlike CAT, in CAT you have logic based DI, right? You will not have any logical DI. There will be simple calculations. Like in CAT, you get logical based DI, right? Which is not the case here. So if you are preparing for those kind of DI sets, you will not find them in the examination. They will be calculation based. Now, there are certain things that you need to be prepared with for tackling these questions. Okay. So what are the things that you must prepare well? First is percentages. Okay, you should very well know that what is 1 by 6 as a percentage. Just an example, right? So if it says 12.5%, you should know 12.5% is 1 by 8. Okay, percentages, you should know the meaning of ratios, how to find ratios. Okay, do not take opposite ratios. Sometimes one of the option might be 1:2, second option will be 2:1. Some people do not know that how to find ratios, right? That's a very basic thing. And then you should know that the concept of averages. Okay, how to calculate average and all those, and some basic calculation techniques, right? So what are those calculation techniques is, uh, if I talk about these calculations, especially related to percentages, like how to convert fractions, right? Like simple multiplication, and all those techniques should be known, right? Some like squares, multiplication, tables of numbers. So basic calculation factors should be known, and certain things like where you have multiple zeros, ignore the zeros, and those all those stuff you should be aware of, right? So that helps in data interpretation. Now someone was asking what are the topics asked in word problems. Okay, so word problems are basically your, the word as the name itself says, word problems as you used to get in your school, right? So question based on quant which says the simple interest is this, rate is this, if the time is this, find the principal. So those kind of questions. So these are the topics which are tested in word problems. Okay, so as I said, most of them are arithmetic topics. Okay, so mostly, so you get questions from almost all the topics. Okay, so I've listed some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So maybe one or two. These primarily cover all the topics. Okay, so you might get one or two questions from, one may be related to numbers. Okay, so age of people and all those. So from these topics, you generally get one question from most of the topics. Okay, so you will not have like this key. There are 5 questions from mixture and allegation. You will get one or two questions per topic. Okay, so this covers everything. Like you will have questions on percentage, profit, loss. Maybe one or two topics they might skip, but they will cover all these. So maybe you might get two questions from permutation, combination, probability, mensuration. Okay, and so all these topics are covered. You should know that which is the topic that you find comfortable. Let us say you are comfortable with simple and compound interest, but you are not comfortable with mixture allegation. So you can skip that particular question which is related to mixture and allegation, or let's say you feel that like compound interest questions are calculation intensive. So based on your abilities, understanding of the topics, you should be attempting the questions. Okay, but while preparing, prepare all the topics because you will get questions from almost all topics. Okay, they won't skip uh, maybe they will skip one or two topics, but it is not that you will get too many questions from one particular topic. So one or two questions from all of these topics. Some topics they might not ask any question. So total around 10 questions on word problems. Okay, now the disadvantage with word problems is they are time consuming. They are mostly time consuming. Now you must be thinking that DI sets are also time consuming. But the thing in DI sets is you have to read instructions once, right? You have to do calculations in almost all of the questions, but you have to read the instructions once, right? In these questions, you have to read every question separately. So DI has an advantage that if you read the passage and are able to do some basic calculations, maybe you will be able to answer multiple questions. So overall time taken for a DI set, let us say if you take like it's a 5 question set, right? That is a better option than solving 5 individual questions. So if you solve 5 word problem questions versus a 5 question DI set, so that is a better choice, because obviously we will have to read all the questions and apply formula, etc. In DI, like some data would be filled, and when you solve some question, right? So some information would be already found for the second question. So that is why it's a better bet to solve DI sets. Okay, now what are the some of the things that one must do in order to excel in QADI section, right? While starting from the preparation to attempting in the examination. First is practice a lot of DI sets. As I said that DI is an important part of the quant section, and uh, uh, you will be able to solve multiple questions in a DI set, right? So if you solve a DI set, you read the instruction. Now you know that, okay, this is the data given to me. I have filled half of the data in the table. In one question, just some extra data would be needed, right? So whenever you solve sets, you realize here some part I had calculated in previous question, so I do not have to do the entire calculation again. So that is definitely a better thing to do in the paper. Then I took a session recently on DI. So that day also I told you that there might be 1 or 2 trap questions, right? So there are 5 questions. 5 questions may say there are like first question may be easy, second may be moderate, third may be difficult, then moderate, then moderate. Okay. So you know that this is a difficult question. Just skip that question. Attempt just 4 questions. Okay. No need to attempt all questions from a DI set. Some people think कि अरे यार मैंने set start किया, so I should do all the questions. No, skip. If you find a question which is going to take more time, if you have to calculate extra information, if extra information is given and you think that it is going to take more time, so just skip that question. Okay, so solving a set does not mean that you solve all the questions of that set. Now that is a mistake that people often make, because they think they have picked a set, they should solve all other questions. So that is like you can see the set and understand that, okay, in this I have to do extra calculation, so let me just skip it. Identify your strong concepts in arithmetic. Okay, so I told you that the list of topics, so you should know that which are your strong concepts. Let's take an example that you get confused with mixture alligation question, right? So that is not your strong concept, but at the same time, if there is a question on profit loss, you are certainly getting it right. So pick those particular topics and attempt those questions. So you have 10 questions, let us say. So you know, okay, these 5-6 topics I have good strong hold of, I can do them fast. So pick those topics and solve them. Okay, so not necessary to go into those some things that is difficult for you. So it applies to all sections, the entire paper also. Okay, so whatever is difficult, do not do that thing. Whatever is easy, attempt that, because each question carries equal marks. Okay, so for example, if I am good with quant, I am not good with verbal, I will not attempt verbal, I will attempt quant, because I know that if I put the same effort, I will have better accuracy, I can solve more questions in quant, so I will do the quant section. Okay, here there is no sectional cutoff, but that does not mean that you leave any particular section, right? Her section say you would be able to do something. So whatever is the thing which is easy for you, please do that. And whatever is difficult, it can be within section also. Let us say your quant is very good, but wherever there are heavy calculations, you become slow. Okay, so just skip those things. So that's a very simple rule, that whatever is difficult, keep skipping that. Whatever is easy, pick those questions and attempt in the paper. And that's the rule for any exam. Okay, because if you want to score well, see, all questions have equal marks. So if you solve difficult questions, that is not going to give you any advantage. That is rather a disadvantage, that you wasted a lot of time solving one question. Now, one generic perception which is not only mine but also of a lot of aspirants, right? Number series and approximation, these are simple questions. Okay, number series, like if you practice some questions, you understand different patterns, right? So you should know that what are the different patterns. Like the patterns could be of difference. Okay, so it could be double difference. It could be some multiplication or division. Okay, it could be like some prime numbers. It could be square numbers, cube numbers, right? So go through different patterns of numbers. Okay, so if the difference is cube numbers, square numbers, okay, like you take the difference and you get a pattern. So practice different patterns, and that will help you do well in the number series section. Now in number series also, these are quite addictive questions, right? People love solving those questions, isn't it? So if I give you a long question of quant versus a number series question, everyone will try to solve the number series question. Okay, it's a good thing to do, but in this thing, keep this thing in mind that do not give more than 15 to 20 seconds to understand the logic. Okay, if you are taking too much time, if you're taking like after 30 seconds also you are not able to find the logic, just skip it, because many times it happens that you may not be able to identify the logic at that moment, and later someone else tells you, you find, okay, yeah, that was the logic. So there can be some trap questions. So if you are able to identify the logic fast, identify the logic, attempt the question and move ahead. Okay, do not waste time in these questions. These are very addictive. People enjoy these questions and they take it to the ego that how can I not find the logic of this. So let us say 5 questions, you solved 4 easily. Now in the 5th one, you realize that you are not able to find it. So just skip that. Okay, so that is a very simple strategy, that since there are too many questions, right? 200 questions to attempt. So even if you skip 10 questions in every section, you still have 160 questions to attempt, right? So do not think that way ki, like I'm not able to do this particular question, what will happen? Just skip it and move ahead. Then approximation, right? Approximation is also a simple thing. So just practice certain calculation based stuff. Okay, and you should know certain things like tables, squares, etc. Okay, so that is helpful in approximation. Sometimes they might ask you square root of certain numbers, or they might ask you to multiply certain numbers, divide certain numbers. So if you know these things, that helps you in approximation. So practice these questions and you will find plenty of them in bank exam papers, because these are the pattern of Maharashtra CT. The 3 sections apart from abstract reasoning are very much similar to bank exam papers. In English also, try solving those questions like word replacement. Different patterns of types of questions are there in English, which are taken from bank exams. In reasoning also, apart from puzzles, certain kind of questions like coding, decoding, input, output, etc., they are present in banking papers. And calculation, quant is about calculations, right? You have to do calculations, you cannot avoid that, right? So learn some calculation hacks, like some simple techniques like last digit might help you, right? You should know that how to find last digit of a number. So if all options have different last digit, this technique can help, right? Then like certain things like avoid zeros. Now how does avoiding zeros helps, right? So let us say I have to find like just taking a very simple example, right? I have to find 40,000 into 18, right? So you figured out that, okay, this is one part, this is second part, some information given. So instead of counting the number of zeros, 18, just multiply this. Suppose you have to multiply this 1.8 into 40,000. Now people think that how many zeros, so they count यहाँ पे decimal है, यहाँ पे zero है, how many zeros should come, right? So when you start thinking in those ways, the time goes, right? So if the zero is here, okay, still you can say 3 zeros. Suppose this was 0.018. Now thinking is more, right? How many zeros should be there, right? So just a normal person, as a normal person, do 18 into 4 and mark 72, like whatever is the answer, right? So the answer here will be 720. Okay, so you get 7. So the options will be like this: 720, 760, 810, like this. There will be options. So this is just the final bit of number that I have taken, right? So when I take up some problems in the class, I teach this thing, that avoid making zeros in the calculations. Suppose in a DI set you are given prices in lakh rupees. Okay, so ignore in lakhs, just take the simple number. So those things, then squares of numbers, then tables of numbers, fractions, these things definitely help you boost your calculation. So you should know that 16.67 is 1 by 6th. Okay, suppose you have to find 16% of a number, right? Suppose you have to find 16% of something. So you know that 16.67 is 1/6. So you can easily divide by 6, right? Rather than multiplying by 16. So somewhere close to that. So all those things, approximate values, these things help you solve questions faster. And as it goes, like if you practice more, you get better at it. And especially with quant, that is the case, because quant is all about mostly about calculations. So even if you have covered the concepts, you understand the concepts well, the calculation speed will make the difference, right? If your speed is fast, you will be able to do more questions in the same time. See, it's not an infinite time paper, right? You have a time foundation, and whenever you have time, so it is about the one who is faster, right? So faster, the person with fast speed wins. So try to build your speed, and that comes through practice. So if you practice regularly, solve more questions. So give at least 1 hour per day. 1 hour is even very less. Like if you're a working professional, then 1 hour would be fine. But if you are sitting like if you're a college student, or if you've done your graduation but not yet working, so you can give more time. So practice good number of questions and avoid calculators. Okay, because you do not get calculator in the examination. Like if you make the habit of using calculators every time, what will happen is in the examination your speed will be slow. Okay, so try to avoid those using calculators, and try to do calculations manually, because that will help you in the examination. Okay, so most of the people, what they do is they use calculators. They say कि अच्छा मुझे तो आ गया, let me calculate using calculator, and they become habitual to using calculators, and hence that impacts their speed. So that happens with everything, right? If we become, let's say, earlier we used to remember things, right? Now we have everything on our phone, so our memory has reduced. Earlier we used to remember, like when we did not have mobile phones, we used to remember phone numbers of different people, like landline numbers and all. But now we have everything stored in the phone, right? So that is the thing that you need to keep in mind, that avoid the use of calculators as much as possible. That will be beneficial to you. Okay, so these were certain techniques, right? Some tips that how can you maximize your performance in the examination. Of course, it is you who have to work on this, right? We can just guide you, we can just show you the path that you need to follow, and it is you that you take these things, take these tips, and practice well, and like identify those strong core areas, identify what topics are easy as per you, as per general public, right? So pick those topics, attempt those in the examination, because it is all about picking the right questions. Okay, so all have the same paper, and sometimes some particular questions are easy. The ones who spot those easy questions take less time to attempt those questions, and have more time to attempt papers, right? So and that's the thing about examination, cracking the examination, right? So pick those right things, and understand also that which are the right things for you. Maybe you might be not good. Let's say I gave you tips for quant, but quant is not your strong area. Your strong area is reasoning. So focus on more on reasoning, because if you put the same effort in, like if you are good at something versus you are bad at something, If you put the same effort, you will get better output in your strong area. So always take your strength in order to do well in any examination. Okay, so if you are good with verbal ability, try to maximize your score. But in other sections also, you should know that what are the some of the topics which are easily pickable, and anyone can attempt those and get the maximum possible score in that section. Right. So thank you for watching this video. Have a great day ahead. Goodbye.